Hello! Welcome to the last video of our TypeScript narrowing series. Today, I'll show you an open-sourced library that I wrote using the same techniques discussed in our previous videos. This library is by no means rigid to anyone's workflow. On the contrary, I made it with the intention of it being valuable to anyone working on a TypeScript codebase. I'm Lucas Paganini, and in this channel, we release web development tutorials. Subscribe if you're interested in that. We also publish our content as articles on our website. You can subscribe to our newsletter and be the first to know when we launch a course, post a video, or write an article. Before we talk about what's inside, you should know how to install it and who should install it. I made this library available on npm. To add it to your codebase, simply run npm install at lucaspaganini/ts. Now, regarding who should install it, I see this library as Lodash for TypeScript. It provides you with flexible and type-safe utilities that make your codebase cleaner. Also, everything is isolated, so you can install it and only import the things that you actually want to use. That said, I truly believe that this library is useful for anyone working in a TypeScript codebase. Front-end, back-end, whatever. If you're using TypeScript, you will benefit from having those utilities. So without further ado, let's explore what's currently available in the library. By the way, I say currently available because it's a living thing. We will add more to it later. So far, our library has three modules: core, assertions, and predicates. Let's start with the core module. The core module contains those 6 utilities. Mutable is the opposite of the native read-only type. It converts the read-only properties of a type into regular mutable properties. Non-nullable properties is similar. It converts all the properties of a type into non-nullable properties. Then we have object values, which returns a union type of the types of all the properties in an object. So, if your object has 3 properties, being them a string, a number, and a date, object values will give you the string or number or date type. I can't tell you how useful that is. Pick property by type returns the keys of the properties that match the expected type. So, similarly to our last example, if we have an object with 4 properties, one being a string, another being a number, and the last 2 being dates, we could use pick property by type to get only the properties that are strings, or the ones that are numbers, or even the 2 that are dates. Similarly, pick by type returns an object that only contains the properties that match the expected type. And last but not least, make constraint allows us to set a type constraint and still keep the literal types. For example, let's say we have a type called icon. It contains a name and an ID. Both properties should be strings. Then we declare a read-only array of icon with 2 icons. One with the ID error and the other with the ID success. Now, if you try to extract the icon ID based on the type of icons, it will be string. But that's too broad. Icon ID should be error or success. If we remove the casting of icons to read-only array of icon, we get what we want, but then we lose the type safety of icons. That's where make constraint comes into play. With it, we can make sure that icons is a read-only array of icon, but still get its literal read-only types. Cool, now let's get into the assertions module. This module contains these 4 utilities. An assertion function is exactly what it seems, a function that makes a type assertion. Unpack assertion function returns the type asserted by an assertion function. Assert has properties, asserts that the given value has the given properties, and throws if it doesn't. To keep things safe, the asserted properties are typed as unknown. If you don't know the differences between any and unknown, I have a 1-minute video for you. The link is in the description. And the last utility in the assertions module is from predicate function. It takes a predicate function, which we'll talk about in a second, and returns an assertion function. The last module in our library is also the largest. The predicates module contains 11 utilities. The first one, predicate function, is a type guard. It takes a value and returns a type predicate. You may be tempted to call this a type guard, but as I've mentioned in the 6th video of the series, the one about higher order guards, the type guard naming is very specific to TypeScript, and these types of functions have been called predicate functions way before TypeScript even existed. Okay? Similarly to unpack assertion functions, we can use unpack predicate function to extract the type guarded by a predicate function. Sometimes we have predicate functions that don't return a type predicate. They just return a regular boolean. For those cases, we have the unguarded predicate function. For example, isEqual is an unguarded predicate function. Then we have the async predicate function, async unguarded predicate function, and make async predicate function. I won't go deeper into them because the 7th video of our TypeScript scenario series was all about them, so I'm not gonna waste your time repeating information. If you need a reminder, there's a link in the description for my video on asynchronous type guards. So go watch it if you haven't yet. Make is not was also mentioned previously in the 6th video. It takes a predicate function and returns the inverted version of it. Make is instance is new though. It takes a class constructor and returns a predicate function that checks if a value is an instance of the given class constructor. Make is included takes an iterable and returns a predicate function that checks if a value is included in the given iterable. And finally, just like in the assertions module, we have make has properties and from assertion function. Make has properties takes an array of properties and returns a predicate function that checks if a value has those properties. And from assertion function takes an assertion function and returns a predicate function. It's the end. But don't close the video yet, I have some things to say. This is the last video of our TypeScript scenario series. The first video series I did on YouTube. I am super happy with the quality that we were able to put out, but I also have big dreams. I want to make things crazy better, and that's why me and my team are building a platform for interactive learning experiences. So, imagine consuming my content, and in the middle of it, there's a minigame for you, or a 3D animation, or a quick quiz to consolidate your knowledge. You get the idea. And all that available in many languages. We currently offer our content in English and Portuguese, but I also want to offer it in Spanish, German, French, and so many others. For now, we are releasing all that content for free. But I think it's obvious to say that we will eventually have paid courses. And I want them to be awesome, like deliver unbelievable value. So sure, if you haven't yet, I highly encourage you to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support is highly appreciated. But don't do just that, because the best way for you to keep up with all those things that we're going to do outside of YouTube is through my email newsletter. So go to lucaspaganini.com and subscribe to it. Thank you so much for sticking with me. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope this is only the beginning of a long journey on YouTube and content creation in general. As always, references are in the description, and if your company is looking for remote web developers, please consider contacting me and my team on lucaspaganini.com. Until then, have a great day, and I will see you in the next one.